Hey, I'm Tony Buffum with Human Cloud here at SIA's CollaborationX conference in Dallas, Texas. We're here live on the expo floor, and I'm today with Sandeep Dhillon from Talmix, now High5. Why don't we kick off with that?
Sure.
Like, tell me about the change.
Why the change? So Talmix has been around for a little while. We
Yeah.
were a talent marketplace which connects companies with business consultants. So we spent a lot of time, building up our enterprise solution. Our core target markets for enterprise private equity consulting. But one thing we were really looking forward to doing is, as we were kind of getting deeper into the space, we found that to really solve enterprise level solutions, you need to offer a full solution. So not just the marketplace, but how do you ensure the talent is, onboarded compliantly, background checks, all of this. And so over the last sort of number of years, we built a number of sort of ecosystem partnerships, which I think work really well. But to really scale and get access, to have that full service offering, and then also to access some amazing MSPs and clients, we partner with a company called eTeam. So they're a large staffing provider, and they were already established in the industry with really solid EOR capabilities and very strong relationships across like enterprise and MSPs. So it just made sense to combine in a larger group where we now have the opportunity to cross-sell and then also just offer that full stack solution to our clients.
I like that because there's no doubt in my mind, organizations, especially enterprises, want that ecosystem. Mm-hmm. They don't want to have to piece it together themselves. The more that it's a comprehensive, all-inclusive solution, the better for them, because there's already enough hurdles for enterprises to get over when they're thinking about working with kind of maybe non-traditional talent. What are some of those that you've seen that enterprises kind of get hung up on that you've been able to mitigate?
Yeah, so I think like when we were first targeting enterprise early on, it was an interesting technology play, but for them, the risks around it are just too great to like fully embed across the whole enterprise.
And when you say risks, like what do you mean? I always think it's like compliance. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
So there's compliance and also quality and delivery, right? So on the compliance side, absolutely, worker classification, not just in the US, but nearly every country has, it's getting stricter and stricter. So there's a real need to have a really solid solution. So it's, the idea that you're just a platform that connects people and then you say bye and it's your problem doesn't really work that effectively. Yeah. And then the other thing as well is because we were in the higher end of the market, so we're placing consultants that are doing something more similar to project or statement of work, where there's more critical decisions are going to be made around that, then how can they ensure that they're covered if anything goes wrong? Because in some ways, sometimes they use us as an alternative to a consultancy firm.
Sure.
But a consultancy firm takes the risk and the liability and the delivery, and we don't.
Yeah.
So it's really, those are the two sort of key aspects where made them hesitant. But what we found is just the demand continues to increase in enterprise for these types of solutions because innovation is happening at such a fast pace. How do you bring in the skill sets, the talent as quickly as possible to deliver? You can't keep relying on purely consultancy. I mean, consultancy firms absolutely have their place, and they do a great job at certain things. But for ad hoc, on-demand work, you can't just keep bringing in, the Big Four or the MBB. So I think it's kind of a balance, right, in risk and speed. So we're definitely seeing a lot more adoption of this type of solution now in the enterprise.
What else? So that demand, especially for speed, is I absolutely see that constantly increasing because the market's so unpredictable. Organizations need adaptability, flexibility to change, turn on a dime. What other trends or things are you seeing in this space that you feel like are different from even a year ago?
So I think one thing, maybe I start with something that's kind of a feature from last year. So we were always targeting clients directly and not via MSPs or these traditional programs. We took a concerted effort to be one of the first in the industry to let's build a partnership with an MSP because most of that spend is actually happening within the program. Yeah. Now, I think one thing we found is, there's a lot of learnings in it, but most MSPs are still not ready for integrating these types of solutions. They're still very focused on the traditional way of delivering. So I think there's a change issue within MSPs, and this is also a frustration I think that enterprise companies are having because enterprise buyers come to events like this or others and they see some great products that far, not just the technology, but the overall solution solves their pain point. And then when they go to the MSP and it's like, can we integrate? Then it, just given the complexities of their program, either things stall or they just take a very long time to adopt. So I think that's like one thing which again continues. The other interesting thing I heard just over the last few days as well is, the whole idea was that a lot of procurement teams are trying to really cut down on this rogue spend, so reduce it. But because the adoption within these programs has been quite sluggish, there are procurement teams that are actually just saying, you know what, just go and use these products. So I think if you're a marketplace or a product, I absolutely think you should work with the ecosystem and, naturally it will develop. But I think there is also an opportunity to just continue to get that revenue whichever way you can, right? Yeah. So I think that's what I'm seeing as well. But certainly older staffing firms are far more open to they understand they need to integrate these solutions at pace, and particularly with AI as well. They need to move fast. Otherwise, a lot of this spend will still continue to go outside the program. And then it may just not be recoverable. How do you bring that in if the system outside of the program is working so effectively to deliver these on-demand resources?
Yeah. Rogue spend in and of itself reflects the demand. There's a reason it's rogue. It's not the operator or the internal team is not getting what they need through whatever's in the system, so they got to go outside the system.
Yeah.
But that increases risk because it's not being managed and everything the same way that all the other programs have been managed. When you think about organizations trying to improve that integration so they can actually meet their clients' needs while at the same time keeping up with innovation, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge, the biggest disconnect?
Okay, so I think one thing I realized is as I kind of more embedded in the staffing industry and working with a lot of players, is that there's a lot of overlap between what a lot of companies do.
Sure.
And certainly, being in sort of the tech ecosystem for 10 years and seeing how all the analysts, keep changing the terminology. Is it an FMS? Is it a VMS? Is it marketplace? Buyers continue to be really confused about, okay, what is this technology delivering and what's it for and how does it fit? And then at the same time, the MSPs are confused as well. So I think there's just a lot of confusion. The one other message that I kept on hearing as well was enterprises and MSPs, they want to simplify the supply chain. So, and particularly, let's say outside North America. North America is quite developed from the MSP type perspective, and also the adoption of marketplaces generally than other markets. But the fragmentation across Europe and APAC is far more significant.
Sure.
And so therefore, it's a big opportunity for MSPs to come into. It's also a big opportunity for enterprise to start to, get that under control. So I think there's rather than having 50 suppliers, they want to have 5.
Yeah.
So the key now is, in a very short window now, if you're a marketplace or a product, I think you've got the real opportunity to jump right in now, because this is a time when there's a lot of RFPs. People are looking at innovative ways to implement these types of solutions. So I think there's simplification piece in terms of you want to be one of those suppliers, and once they kind of remove the other 40, 45, so that's really key. Yeah. And I think the other thing as well is how is your solution differentiated and what is it that you're really good at? And work with people in the partnership ecosystem. You don't need to do everything. So although we are part of a group company that does a lot of other services, it's very much ad hoc how we work with clients because they may have used those services elsewhere. So you need to be nimble and you need to deliver what the client needs. We're not going to go to our client and say, hey, you can only have our solution if you take the other 5 things and do this. It doesn't make any sense. We're here to solve the client problem. And if we can fit, be a piece in a lot of different clients, and that's the way to look at it.
Yeah, I think, that's great because enterprise clients want to have customized solutions. Mm-hmm. They don't want to, they're not one size fits all. And as you talk to enterprise buyers, they want to make sure you know how special they are.
Yes.
And they really are. They're all different. So being able to piece together exactly what they need is going to help get them to signing on the dotted line a lot faster.
Absolutely.
One thing that I see this a lot already, just in the last day that I've been here, it seems like everybody's using AI, at least on the front end of the recruiting process, and usually in some administrative way within their operations. How do you see AI evolving in this space, and what are you doing at High5 to leverage that to help differentiate and optimize your operations?
So I'll talk in two parts. Firstly, what I'm hearing from our enterprise clients and what they're doing. So absolutely, they are all trying to get their staff upskilled on AI.
Yeah.
Some of them are relying on, because there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of training being created by Google and these other companies. So some of them are giving access to the team, but challenges that they're having is the adoption of it.
Yeah.
People are, again, this is a challenge of just the way people learn. People like to do some micro learning. So the traditional ways of teaching and learning people is changing. So it's actually quite difficult to train your staff from that perspective. That being said, there are other enterprises that are mandating it. So, you have to start implementing AI, use X% of your time. We want you to be experimenting with it as well. So I think that's the way to really do it, is push it in and have your team, you kind of just gently force them to trial it and use it. Because otherwise, if you just give them the videos, it's not going to work. They're not going to get trained. And actually, one of the big concerns I heard, not only from enterprise, but also MSPs, was that the issue of, there could be a whole population of people that are left behind as well. So how do you make sure upskill and reskill them as well? So that's a type of solution that they're interested in as well. Is like, how can you keep our staff, not only our internal staff, but also the contingent labor that we're using, the on-demand, how do we keep them upskilled as well? That's a big opportunity, I think, for training companies. In terms of how we use AI internally as High5 and also the group company, there's a few things. So yes, we've got the training modules, we've got access to those.
I hope so, after everything you just said. I hope you're
I'm not saying we're the best at doing it. I think I encourage my team to experiment all the time. If I come up with a way that I'm using AI in my workflow, I share it. So I really encourage sharing of different ways to do things. And then in terms of the actual process itself, so we've always had the matching algorithms. So we've had AI embedded in our platform for a while. We're implementing many other, we're implementing a lot of different ways in our platform now. So particularly as it relates to initial screening of profiles, we're using more AI to do that. Presentation of profiles, because, particularly with consultants, there can be, in the old days, clients would have 10 different CVs to look at. They're all different formats. It's all very confusing. Through our platform, you've got 10 different maybe 5 applications. They're a bit more consistent in terms of format, so it's a little bit easier to compare. But how can we make that even more effective as well? Because we have a lot of data on our talent. We've got their CVs, we've got their profiles, we've got every application they've done to any client whatsoever, which includes additional information. And we're trying to reduce the burden for that individual to dig through all that data and actually put together a proposal, like how can we automate that part as well. So we're doing that to streamline and improve the talent process, which then makes it easier for the client selection process and for our curating team. And then on the curation piece, really, where can we implement AI? So for example, a few things we're experimenting with is interviewing. So someone applies to join the platform. We're experimenting with having the AI do an initial interview to get additional information, which kind of fits. So, because a lot of the time, I'm sure as you're in, you probably saw this at Upwork and other places, profiles are very inconsistent. Someone just wants to create a profile really quickly and then just get on with it. So by utilizing a more conversational interface, we're able to get more information on their background into the platform in a structured data set. So then that's helpful for them, and helpful for us as well.
That's what I was saying. It's at least helpful for the talent themselves.
Exactly. I was going to say there's one other thing which I think was really clever that we're doing. We're doing this at a group company. So particularly for the recruiters that they've got, so the more traditional recruitment, is that we've programmed in what needs to be covered during an initial intake call or a recruitment call. And what's really smart is that the recruiter will call, it's all recorded, but after the call, the AI will say, well, maybe you should have asked about this, or you maybe missed this bit. So rather than the AI just taking over and doing anything, we're actually on the job training individuals and how did you miss something or do anything better. So I think that's a really clever way to upskill the team rather than, we're not planning on replacing, we just want to make them more effective. So I think that's a really nice sort of on-the-job training that we're doing with AI.
That's great. And that's something you've been developing internally?
Yes.
That's great.
And a lot of recruitment firms are, and I was going to say as well, I know that there's lots of different software that does this. I think now is the time to start selling that because companies are starting to develop their own. And so if you've got a solution ready, you should be knocking on doors today.
I've seen a few solutions develop that are doing real-time coaching. So not after the fact, but while you're having the conversation, identifying tone shifts or ways someone responds and suggesting follow-up questions or changing a direction. And I think that's terrific because it's clear.
I would struggle. Maybe it's just my age, but I can only focus on one thing at a time. So I think I might struggle.
Yeah.
But the next generation, it wouldn't surprise me. I think they're better at multitasking and looking at a lot of different sources. So.
I think they have to. Yeah, they have to be. And the expectation, I think, is that you're using these tools live to augment what you're doing. And getting that feedback and quickly processing it while at the same time having an interpersonal interaction. As we finish up, you think the most exciting thing you're working on right now?
I mean, aside from all the AI side, I think for me, the real exciting thing over the last year in the acquisition is just the immense number of enterprises that we now have access to through our parent company. And I think the other real exciting thing, it's quite easy to just look at the news of the market and think, oh, is everything down? Are people not hiring? Actually having conversations with some really large enterprises, there's a lot of positive sentiment continues, particularly for contingent and on-demand labor. They're not thinking of slowing down. There may be a slight pause now, but there's no indication that this is slowing down. If anything, it's like, how can we embed more of the on-demand labor into our programs? And that will just continue. So I think that's the thing that I am most excited about.
I can agree more, especially I know we're seeing jobs numbers come out, and it kind of sounds like it's starting to get a little depressing. But I think the reality for marketplaces, especially, is as organizations reflect on their downshifting their talent and reducing that overall talent pool. They're thinking more creatively about how do we staff up next time and how do we make it more flexible. And you add that to the fact that more and more people are becoming independent or working independently as opposed to taking traditional jobs. I think those things marry up to reflect a different organizational structure, a different ratio of full-time versus on-demand talent as we go forward. And that's really exciting. It should be especially exciting for all the marketplace leaders that are listening to this. And it should be a really exciting opportunity for all those enterprises that are like, maybe this is our time to get a bit more creative and find partners that can help us on that journey, because we've got to do something different the next time around.
And I think, as I said as well, is finally the let's say the large behemoth staffing firms, they're being pushed quite hard into it now. I think over the last few years, a lot of conversations, but now it's like they have to. It's an adapt or die type of state now for most of these companies. So I think that's what's so exciting about it. Lots of innovation, lots of change. That's what keeps us all busy and happy, right?
So where can our listeners learn more about you and High5? I was about to say you and Sandeep. About you, Sandeep, and High5. Where should they go?
I don't have a huge digital presence. I've got my LinkedIn. I don't post as often.
Yeah, most people say LinkedIn. That's all right.
And high5hire.com. So that's the website.
High5hire. Okay.
But obviously, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I've got a Substack, but that's related to my photography, so maybe it's slightly less relevant.
Next time we'll talk about the photography.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been great talking to you at SIA's CollaborationX. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony.